sporting hero. Wally Tallis was a proud Indigenous man. He played Aussie rules and rugby league and also happened to be the father of the raging bull, Gorden Tallis. Tell us about how you came to know that there'd be a street outside the Brown New Stadium in Townsville named after your dad.
Yeah, it was strange. I was up in Townsville and I think it came across the news, like 7, 9 or 10, whatever it was, that they were naming streets around the new stadium up there, and my dad's name come up, and then I'm in Townsville and Mum rang me and she was really excited that Dad even got mentioned. That was it, that my dad would even get mentioned to have a street named after himself. Then we got a phone call saying that he was one of the guys selected, or one of the people. There was four streets. Graham Murray, the first coach to get him to a grand final, and then Dad. So it was really fitting, and it was special for Mum and Dad because he just loves North Queensland. He just loves that area, loves Townsville. Growing up in North Queensland and what rugby league and what sport did for that area, to have a stadium built just for the people, because they drive 300 kilometres to watch a game of rugby league, and it's really special. And you know, for Dad to be part of that, you know, it was really honoured. And I just think, just him, because he was so quirky and had these one-liners, he'd want a toll on there, and that you had to have a beer for him, like walking into the stadium or walking out. It's just a toll to go there and have a good time and enjoy yourself. But I think it's honoured, and there's so many great people. Like, there's so many wonderful people, and you know, part of me feels like there's other people that could add their name, but part of me is really proud that Dad's going to be remembered for what he's given the area.
So there's legend has it that your dad played 400 games of rugby league and 400 games of AFL. Is that true?
Lara, the greatest thing about Dad is when I went home, I was always his son. I was never Gorden Tallis. I was never anything else but Wally Tallis' son, and that's because of the man who he was and what he's done in the community. So I was never anybody else, and there were some great stories, and he went over the Lee. Vossi would love the story. This is a great story for the fan. He went over, he got signed to go play in England with Bobby Hagan, who was the boss of the Bulldogs for a while. Guy from Townsville was sent to go play in England and got off the plane in Russia. I don't know how that happens. An Indigenous guy, dressed from Townsville, probably had thongs, you know, pair of stubbies. He wouldn't have had singlets. I didn't see him in singlets. He would have had a T-shirt on, and he landed in Russia. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know how it finished, but that's one of Dad's stories. And they had to win a Foley Shield. Foley Shield was when Townsville played Mackay, Cairns, Mount Isa, and he kicked the ball, I think, 65 metres, and that's in the paper, to win. And when he pointed to the sticks, they all smiled and laughed at him. And I haven't seen an NRL player do it, but he never told us that story. It was in the paper, and then other people just relay what he's done, and he's humble, and I wish I had a bit more of him in me, but yeah, but it's fitting.
We know you were famously the Raging Bull, but he was the Gentle Giant. Is that fitting?
Yeah, he's a teddy bear. Well, he was a fullback. He was 6'4", 100 kilos, 105 kilos playing back in the late 60s, early 70s, and was really fast. And today that's a, yeah, like, well, in my time that was a back rower or a front rower. So he was a really big guy and he was gentle. I don't think he ever wanted to hurt anybody. And I was a little bit different, probably because I didn't have his speed and didn't have his skill level, that I had to play with more aggression.
So what would he think of this special honour bestowed upon him?
He'd have a go at me because he's got something that I haven't got.
Okay.
But I'm sure there's a Gorden Street somewhere.
Yes,
I'm sure everywhere, in every city, there's a Gorden Street, but there's not a Gorden Tallis Way or whatever. So no, I think he's that humble. I think that he'd just look at me and he'd have a cheeky grin, or he'd look at the family, but you know, he wouldn't say anything because he would think that it's supposed to be for somebody else, and I think that's the special quality that he had. He was very, very selfless. He always coached footy teams, and he was never about himself. It was always about other people. Everybody's remembered, Lara. So no matter who it is, you don't need a street sign to be remembered. You don't need to, you know, have your name up and lights to be remembered. But it's just really good that every time I'm going to go to that stadium, or somebody walks past, that they might ask a question, who was that? And someone might passed down a story which doesn't get told that much.
Yeah.
And the greatest story is, like, my last ever game was up there. We got beaten 10-0 against the Cowboys, and I went over and my whole family's really upset. Mum's got tears in her eyes, my sister, you know, mate, and my little boy Ethan, he was 6 months old, he's in the crowd. And then I went over to Dad and he had a bit of a tear, and he's a big, strong guy, he never ever showed any emotion, and had a bit of a tear in his eye. I said, Dad, I've had enough, you know, it's time for me to retire. I tried to retire, you know, 2 years before that. And he goes, son, how good were the Cowboys tonight? Well, I felt like choking him, like in my moment. And he's just such a North Queenslander, such a Townsvillian, and that it was about the Cowboys even, you know, in my last ever game. He's just loved that area, and I think for me personally, it's fitting for me to ever walk in that stadium and just remember Dad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that says it all, really. He deserves a street named after him when his own son's playing his last rugby league game.
And he's barracking.
And he's barracking for the opposition.
I don't know whether it's because he's probably always scared of Mum. So I don't know whether he was barracking for him, but the little thing he said, he goes, oh, how good were the Cowboys? I'm like, I'd have it like seconds. What did you just say? But that's him, and it's good, and you know, and he's a North Queenslander, and we're proud of where we're from, and
yeah,
you know, and I wouldn't have expected anything else.